Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you some new Dollar Tree DIYs. For DIY number one, I cut out 2 pieces of foam board. I always get my foam board from Dollar Tree or Walmart because it is the cheapest. Sometimes it's even cheaper at Walmart. I always cut it out with my box cutter. I've showed you guys a lot of times how I do it. I kind of just score it at first. Then I go all the way through with my box cutter. So these pieces are about 12 by 8 inches. It's also good to sand down the sides a little bit with a sanding block from Dollar Tree because it does have a little bit of rough edges sometimes from where you cut it. I'm going to actually paint the piece of foam board with my antique wax, and you want to use a bristled brush because it looks more like a wood grain on here if you do that. If you use a more precise brush, it'll make it look solid, and you want it, if you want the look that I went for, which looks a little more like a piece of wood, then you want to use a bristled brush. So I'm going to go over it, and then I'm going to use a paint on top of it. So the wax is not so dark, because as you can see, it is pretty dark. I also add water to my paintbrush so it goes on a little bit lighter. And as soon as I'm done, I don't wait for it to dry. I'm going to use my cashew chalk paint and go over it with the same brush. And the reason for this is I really love the look. Once you see the finish after I go over it with this, it just looks so pretty. Another reason I'm using foam board is because I can cut out the exact size I need for a sign or for like this, since I'm using these as kind of like a sconce. Instead of going to Dollar Tree and trying to find the perfect size sign to use, I can just always use foam board. You probably have seen me do this a lot recently. So these are my 2 sconces. And what I'm going to do is take some Dollar Tree wooden dowels and frame the foam board so it looks like a sign or a sconce. Now you can do this with dowels. I usually do them with the long wooden skewers from Dollar Tree if I make a really big sign. So it's up to you, but if it's perfectly on the sides, that's why I like doing this. So I'm just gonna add hot glue and put these on the side as is. I'm not gonna paint them. So y'all remember whenever I was in the Creative Champion contest by Heidi Sambo? That contest is still going on, so don't forget to watch it. It's every Saturday, and I think there are 2 more left. So make sure you go and watch. But I also just want to say thank you so much, whoever voted for me in the first round. I appreciate that so much. Even though I didn't make it to the end, I appreciate y'all so much. The dowels are all glued on, and I really love the way this looks. Can you believe how well paint goes onto this foam board? I mean, it just looks so pretty, and I'm obsessed with that color. Now what we're gonna do is take a Dollar Tree gift box, and I'm gonna cut it in half. This is gonna go on to the scones. If you are still watching, thank you. You are freaking awesome. Put a heart emoji in the comments below. I love doing that. I like engaging like that with y'all because it gets the comments going. So put a heart emoji if you're still watching. I'm using the Dollar Tree self-adhesive wall tiles to cover the boxes. So I open the package, I turn the wall tile on the back side. I'm picking up the clear plastic, which reveals the sticky part of the tile. I'm going to place my box on top, and then I'm just going to cut the excess off all around the box. So since I cut around the tile, the sticky part of the tile comes away from the actual design of the tile. So I'm just going to use my hot glue right there. I finished up all the sides, and now what I'm going to do to just complete the look of this little box, I am going to add dowels to just the top area on the side. So I'm just going to basically frame it, and it'll just keep it from looking like it's tile. So an easy way to attach this, I'm just going to add hot glue all around it and stick it on to the foam board. Now you might see a little hole up there because I was going to try a different way to attach it, but honestly, all you have to do is use hot glue. I'm only putting flowers inside of this, and I'm going to show you another way to add more security to this from the inside. So I'm going to use Jenga pieces from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to add 3 inside. So 1 at the bottom and 1 on each side. So that is definitely going to help with security, and this will not fall apart. So I am using command strips to hang these up. That is the best way to hang items up on your wall without making holes. And I added Dollar Tree magnolia flowers in there. For DIY number 2, I'm using 4 Dollar Tree wooden crates, or these are not crates, these are like the trays, I guess you could say. And I am going to sand them down first so that way I can hot glue them and paint them. So I marked the center of the middle tray right there. That way I can hot glue one of the trays to the right side. So I kind of came up with this little design that I'm doing with these trays from Pinterest. I'm going to stack one on each side. And then for the last one, I will stack that last tray on top in the center. So I just thought it kind of looked unique and different, and I thought it'd be pretty to add, you know, whatever you want, plants, flowers. I'm gonna do both, and this was just a really simple DIY that I add some detail to in a minute. I'm gonna use a wet brush and paint on some of this hazelnut chalk paint just so it won't go on so dark. So I'm going to keep my brush wet, and now I'm going to go over it with that cashew chalk paint. Now I'm going to use some Dollar Tree Jenga pieces to cover up the sides where the stars are at. I always say Jenga pieces because that's just what I always grew up playing. But from Dollar Tree, they're called tumbling tower blocks. I'm sure a lot of you know that. So I'm going to start off on the side just like this. This is how I want it to look on the side. This is actually going to be the back side. So I'm going to start on the back side, hot gluing the tumbling tower blocks just like this. And then I will just keep going on the sides to cover up the star, and then put one more on the opposite side, which will be the front of this piece. I have all 6 sides covered with the tumbling tower blocks. Now we're gonna go ahead and paint the blocks with my cashew paint. So the last thing I did was grab these gemstone stickers, and it doesn't matter which ones you pick up, they have big ones as well, or bigger ones than these. And what I'm gonna do is first go over them with some white paint just to give it a good base coat since it's green. And then I'm gonna go over it with that antique wax just to give it that wooden look. And then I'm gonna add them to the front and the sides. You'll see that right now in a second, how I add it just to finish off the look. I hope you enjoyed this second DIY. I know this is something really different and unique, so I really hope y'all like this one. So for the third DIY, I am using 4 5x7 frames from Dollar Tree. And what I'm gonna do is paint the outside gold area with my white paint from Apple Barrel. So I'm just removing the glass and everything. That way, you know, I won't get paint on it. I'm not sure if you can tell, but the brown area on this, it's not black. It's like a wood grain. It's just kind of dark. Now I'm gonna take a Dollar Tree sun hat. I'm gonna cut into the side of the hat, and then the whole thing just pulls apart real easily. And I'm going to cover up the inside of the gold part of the frame. So I glued the other two strips on the opposite sides, and now I have all 4 frames done. I'm gonna put the glass back in 3 of the frames. I'm gonna leave 1 without glass. That way I can easily put stuff inside of this lantern. I didn't even tell you what I was making. I'm making a lantern. I'm doing a, I guess you could say like a vaulted lantern, which basically means instead of it having a flat top, I'm gonna have it vaulted and raised. So I kind of wanted to challenge myself in doing something like this. It was a little bit kind of difficult to kind of figure out how to do it. I really had to think and see how to do this, and then once I figured it out, it was fun, and I'm happy I figured out, you know, a way to do it. Since you are going to be able to see the inside of the lantern, this is the front and this is the back. So I did add the strips of sun hat on the back. And for the outside part where you see how it looks messy with the paint, you can finish painting that white, or you can just do what I'm gonna do and add another strip of the sun hat on the outside as well. And I'm sure you all know how to make a lantern, but just for those who maybe haven't made one in a while, this is how I'm gonna glue them together. Just all 4 like this, and then we'll start working on the vaulted part of the lantern. To start off on the vaulted part of the lantern, I cut 4 small little dowels into a square, and now I'm going to hot glue them together. So this next part was a little tricky, but once I glued one of the dowels down, I found it easy after that. So all I'm going to do is take one whole dowel from the Dollar Tree wooden dowels and cut it in half. Now you could, once you see the final lantern, it did kind of look a little bit too big at the top. I'm talking about the vaulted part of it. So if you want, you can trim down the dowels even smaller, but I just cut them in half and used 2 of them for this part. So I added hot glue to that top part, that little square, right at the corner, added the dowel, let it sit just like this slanted so that way it dries just like that. And then I will hot glue the other dowel on the opposite side. Once it dries, you can pick it up, turn it around, and add hot glue all around it just so it really stays secured. Now I'm connecting it to the lantern and adding hot glue on 2 of the corners, and then I can place them where I want, and I can kind of step back once I let it sit there for a few seconds and look to see if it's straight, if it's crooked, and fix that. And remember, once it's dry, you can go back and just continue to add hot glue all around the dowels like I did earlier. So now I'm adding the other 2 dowels and letting those dry. Once I was done with that, I'm taking some Dollar Tree craft sticks, cutting the round ends off, and I'm going to hot glue 4 of them all around one dowel so that way it looks, you know, a little better than just, you know, wooden dowels at the top. So I wanted it to look, I wanted the top to look, you know, a little thicker and not so skinny at the top, if that makes sense. All right, so this is the front of the lantern. I have 3 of the crab sticks on all 4 of them. So I'm just gonna finish it by adding the last one. So I'm gonna lay it down and I'm gonna show you how I add the last ones on the inside and the back. So the top doesn't look empty. I'm taking 3 tumbling tower blocks and gluing them together, and I'm gonna add that at the top. Now I should have did 4 because once I was done with this part, I added another set of 4 on top of this one. I'll show y'all that in a bit. And now I'm adding a strip of the sun hat all around this part. And of course, you would paint this before adding that strip of sun hat at the top. But honestly, I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. Looking at it now, I do wish I would have just left it just like this. I don't know if I really liked the white paint right here at the top, but it's totally fine. I think it still came out cute. And this is where I added the other set of 4 tumbling tower blocks. 4 just fit better than 3. I think it looks more finished that way. Now I'm adding another strip of the sun hat right here just to cover up that bottom area of those crab sticks. So to give this a faux round handle at the top, meaning I'm not going to grab it from there because it'll just pop off, I am using floral wire and some small wooden beads, and I'm just wrapping that and just turning it to tighten it at the bottom. And then I'm going to just hot glue this at the top. I added the 50th strip of the sun hat at the top right here where the jingle pieces are. I'm not sure if you could tell, but I did. So I didn't add a bottom to this just so it would be easier to add things inside. But you totally could with some craft sticks. So I do that sometimes with other lanterns. So inside I have a Dollar Tree candle, which you don't want to light, or you can just get a fake one or an LED one from Dollar Tree. And then I have a little bucket with some Dollar Tree lavender. For our last DIY today, I'm using two 6x8 Dollar Tree canvases. And I only did 4 DIYs for this video because it's already going over 20 minutes right now, and normally by this time I'm on my 5th or 6th DIY, which is what I normally do, 5 or 6. So yeah, I just wanted to give you a heads up about that. Now I'm painting the frames white after removing the canvases from the frame. Now I'm using a Dollar Tree wreath charm and I'm gonna paint it black. So I am making a sconce for this last DIY, and I'm doing a double frame with the canvases. Otherwise I would have done 2, but I realized this wreath charm needs a thicker, I guess, base to glue onto. So that's why I doubled the frames, and you'll see what I mean right now. I'm gonna glue both of them on top of each other so I have a thicker base for the wreath charm. Now I'm using the hazelnut on top of the white paint with a bristled brush. And now for the fun part, we're gonna decorate this candle sconce. So this is what I mean when I say I'm going to add the other one on top. But first, before doing that, I'm gonna create a little design with the strips of sun hat. I'm starting off from one corner to the other corner, and I'll go ahead and just let you watch because it's kind of hard to explain, but it's very easy to just see instead. All right, and once I cut off the excess, I am going to add the last 2 strips this way. And I realized that I needed that bottom part of the frame to add the wreath charm. And so I just removed that little area of the sun hat strips. Remember how I said I needed the frames to be doubled, so that bottom part where the wreath charm is gonna sit is thicker, and it's just better to add 2 frames. So that's why I did that. First, I'm gonna hot glue the frame on, and then we will add the wreath charm. Even though I'm only adding a Dollar Tree candle to the wreath charm on top, I want to add a little extra support with a tumbling tower block. So I'm adding that to the bottom, and then I will paint the bottom black. So I just stuck some Dollar Tree greenery behind the candle. The candle is lightweight, so don't worry about this falling. And again, to hang this up, you just want to use command strips. If you are not yet subscribed and you love DIYs and home decor, make sure you're subscribed. And I know you hear all YouTubers say this, but push the little bell notification. That way you're notified every time I post.